Hey everyone, there's a quote I think most investors have heard before. Warren Buffett said it: be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful. Now, the first time I heard it, thought I understood it, but here's what I've learned. Understanding a principle and then actually applying it, those are two completely different things. And for physicians specifically, there's some very particular reasons why this is harder than it sounds. That sounds interesting to you? Stay tuned. Welcome to the Passive Income MD podcast, where we talk about creating your ideal life through multiple streams of income. If you enjoy hearing about this stuff, make sure to hit subscribe. Now let's get on with the show. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for tuning in wherever you're tuning in from, whether it's in your car, walking the dogs, in between cases, at the clinic, whatever it is. I appreciate you being here and for the hard work that you do. My name is Peter Kim, and today I want to talk about market timing, why most physicians get it wrong, and what I've personally had to learn the hard way over the last few years. I want to be upfront about this. I'm not coming at this as someone who has it figured out. I mean, I've been through now a few real estate cycles. Each one has taught me something the previous one didn't. Now, the cycle we just came through was definitely the most expensive teacher so far. So that's what I'm working with here, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Now, most physician investors I talk to are typically stuck in one of two places: waiting for certainty that never comes, or they're consuming information, trying to put it together, synthesize it all into a clear signal before they commit. Neither of those is actually a strategy. But here's what I want to name specifically for physicians. We were trained to gather data before acting. Evidence-based medicine, in clinical medicine, that instinct is the right one. That's exactly right. You don't make a diagnosis on incomplete information. You order the tests, you get the labs, you wait for the result, you confirm before you move and share the diagnosis and take action on it. And that same instinct applied to investing sometimes becomes a trap, because in markets, there's no clean result to wait for. I mean, the picture, I'll be honest with you, never fully clears. Like waiting for certainty in an environment that doesn't offer it, it's not caution. It's kind of like paralysis analysis. It's a more comfortable version of that. And the cost isn't always a bad investment. It's years of compounding that never starts, that never happens. And there's another piece of this that, again, I don't hear talked about enough. I mean, most physicians don't have colleagues who are actively investing in alternatives. I mean, your partners are probably not doing it. They're probably doing the basics there. Your friends from residency are probably not doing it as well. So when you decide to move while others are sitting still, it's not like you're just going against media sentiment out there. You're doing something that it feels like none of the people around you are doing. Now, no one in your immediate circle who can help validate the situation, that's kind of a lonelier version of the contrarian problem that Warren Buffett was describing. And I felt that. I think it stops a lot of people who would otherwise act. Now, a few years ago, real estate felt pretty expensive. I mean, things were moving up really quickly. Interest rates, have been historically low for a long time. And especially during COVID, they really cranked them down. The direction of where these investments would eventually go seemed pretty clear. Rates would have to go up. And I had a thesis around this. I had a feeling of what was going to happen. And to be honest with you, I was in deals that I believed were structured to handle a shift in the rate environment. What I didn't really model or appreciate was the velocity at which this could happen. And this is where medicine gives us like a useful framework or frame, if we use it honestly. Like in clinical practice, right? You learn early that direction matters, but rate of change matters just as much, if not more. Maybe you're watching that sodium in a patient and it's been slowly drifting down over several weeks. I mean, that is completely different from someone that drops the same amount in 24 hours, same with the crit, whatever it is, someone who slowly drops over time and somebody within a few hours changes significantly. One you monitor, and then one you would take action on immediately. And investing, I find, works the same way. Hey everyone, I wanted to let you know that PIMD Con 2026 is coming up. And whether this is your first time hearing about it or you've joined us before, here's what you should know. This isn't just another physician conference. PIMD Con is the event for doctors who want to expand what's possible, not just in medicine, but in business, investing, and life outside the hospital. This is where physicians come together in person to build real leverage, to learn what's working, and to connect with people who are actively doing it, forming real connections that turn into partnerships as well as long-term opportunities. No fluff, no theory, just practical strategies and powerful conversations that continue long after the event ends. PIMD Con 2026 is happening September 24th through 26th in Dallas, Texas. If you want to get in the room with the right people and build what's next, join us in Dallas this September. I think I had a reasonable read on direction, but what I hadn't appreciated and even stress tested, I'd say, was the speed of that scenario. Deals that got built to handle a shift, but more of a gradual one, got caught in a fast one. I mean, we saw the highest rate of increase in interest rates, in the last 40 years, right? In our lifetimes. In medicine, I think we know that direction and velocity are two different questions. Again, I just hadn't applied that same thinking to my own investment underwriting. And when that happened, that changed so much so quickly. Now, let me draw a distinction that I think matters a lot. Timing. It means predicting peaks and the valleys, the troughs. Calling the bottom, that's when you should buy. Buying in, riding the recovery. Almost nobody does this consistently well. Positioning is something different. It means understanding where you are, like in the cycle with reasonable probability, not certainty, probability. And then adjusting your exposure, your leverage, your liquidity accordingly. There's an investor named Howard Marks. You might have heard of him. He runs Oak Tree Capital. He's got some great memos. He tends to do his best work when markets are in distress. That's what he's known for. I don't think necessarily he has better data. I think it's more that he has a framework for reading where sentiment sits relative to reality. And then he builds his conviction and his liquidity before the pressure arrives, not during it. And he's ready to jump in when other people are fleeing. Now, think about your own decision-making environment as a physician. The moments you have to think about your finances are usually in free time that you have, or late at nights when you finally sit down for 10 minutes. Again, that's not a good environment for making huge capital decisions with hard-earned money with fresh eyes, which means that if you haven't done the thinking in advance, you're at a real disadvantage the moment the window opens up for you. What's actually changed in how I approach this? A few things. And I want to be honest that, again, I'm still refining all of it. First, I distinctly separate direction from velocity. Again, you notice from the clinical side, trend moving slowly and a trend moving fast require different responses, different anticipation, even when they're pointed in the same direction. I realized that maybe I just hadn't applied that same level of rigor to investment underwriting. And I can tell you I do now. Second, liquidity runway ahead of the thesis. And what I mean by that, it doesn't matter how right your read is of the direction. If you can't hold the position long enough for it to play out, that could be a problem. And physicians often have less actual liquidity than most people assume out there. They think we're all sitting on these huge piles. I think it's important to know your real number before you commit to anything. But getting your cash together to ride through situations to make sure you end up in the good part of the market, alive and resilient, that's so important. Third, set your criteria in calm markets. I think better said than done, but when nothing much is happening in the market, that's exactly when I want to be deciding what I would act on if the environment shifts one way or another. Because if I wait until things are falling apart and I'm trying to make those decisions under pressure, it's not going to go well. I'm not going to be able to make those decisions. I'm not going to think clearly. It's better to think about those before they actually happen. Fourth, learn to hold the discomfort of being early. Now, being early and being wrong, maybe they look identical for a while. Now, if you can't sit in that window without second guessing the position, you'll never be able to understand this whole contrarian principle, this be fearful when other people are greedy when other people are fearful, especially when the moment counts. Really successful investors, I know, aren't trying to time things perfectly. And of course, they'd rather be early than late to a situation. So I'm not going to predict what happens next. I've said enough about prediction limits and how that works. Heading into the back half of the year, the questions worth sitting with are definitely not like, when is the bottom or when are rates exactly going to come down? Those are timing questions. They'll probably send you off in weird directions and circles. I think the better questions are these. What is sentiment telling you in the markets that you care about? Find out, what is the sentiment? What are people feeling? Where's their distress that the broader market is avoiding? What does your liquidity position actually look like? And if an opportunity opened up in the next 6 months, would you be ready to take action on it? Have you educated yourself enough? Do you have enough liquidity? Are you ready to make that happen? Or would you be starting the analysis from scratch at exactly the wrong time? Now, the hardest part of all of this, and again, I say this from my own experience, is that the analysis is actually kind of the easier piece. What's hard is building the process and definitely that whole sense of conviction to act on it before the pressure arrives. Again, it's easy to say before, it's easy to talk about after. How about actually doing it in the moment? I think that's where we all have challenges. To get around that is you want to think in advance, prepare your liquidity to follow through, and then have enough pattern recognition from past cycles, including the ones that cost you something. Those are sometimes the most valuable teachers so that you don't freeze when the moment shows up. Again, in medicine, I think we were trained to recognize patterns. Shout out to the pathologists, radiologists, but all of us in medicine, we hear and see different things. We start to recognize patterns to figure out what the diagnosis is. We use that skill every day. Now, this is just about applying it in a new context with the same honest discipline that we bring to clinical decisions without a lot of the emotion. And that's what I'm still working on. I hope that's useful for you to hear. Thanks for being here, everyone. I'll see you next week. Talk soon. Thanks. Enjoy the show? Let me know by dropping a review in the podcast app you're listening to us in. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit subscribe. Join thousands of physicians who are also on this journey to creating their ideal lives through multiple streams of income. Learn more at our website, passiveincomemd.com. Thanks again for allowing me to be a part of your journey. See you next time.